All right. Welcome, everybody. This is CyberBulls. This is a show about Tesla and investing.
Tesla is the most consequential company in the world.
I'm the bull on the EV business. I think the margins are going to explode.
Still the same company. Company is still executing.
The energy is bigger than the auto business.
I'm the young bull that talks a lot of smack.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. This is CyberBulls, and normally we have Alexandra, we have Christian, we have Xander, but they're missing today. So Xander, as you know, is still quite busy with his yogurt shop that he's just launched. It's now live in LA. He's very, very busy, but he might join us a little bit later today. Christian's not feeling very well, so he's out for the day, and Alexandra's got an appointment today. So replacing them today is other bulls. We've got Nicholas Gibbs. You've seen him before. He's joined me quite a number of times. He's the host of his own YouTube channel called Investing Against the Grain. What kind of bull are we going to call you, Nicholas? You're more of the conservative bull. You're more of the what would you call yourself?
I think pragmatic bull.
The pragmatic bull. We have the rational bull, Jeff Lutz. And then Fa, thank you so much for joining us. You have just been buying Tesla stock. You do, I think I saw in your tweets that you did 3 jobs, and every time you make your money, you'd buy more Tesla stock. Tell us a little bit about your story, Fa.
So in 2019, the lockdown, everybody stay at home. I just like, okay, what are we doing? So I'm looking into stock market for the first time. No, I actually been buying ETF, but since 10 years, but it's a Thai ETF in Thailand. It's a Thai petroleum, basically gas, energy, and bank in Thailand. That's what I've been doing, like mutual fund. But in America, for the first time, 2019, I went and test drive Model 3, and I'm like, what is this thing? It's just go. It's not sound anything clunky. And then when the pandemic hit, I'm looking into it, and I found Stephen Mark Ryan, and he's like super bull, right? So I've been starting my position since 2019, and dollar cost average all the time. If I have money, I keep buying. I buy at all-time high too. I'm proud of that. No shame at all. And yes, I think for the lifetime, sometimes you make a lot of money, sometimes you make little money. The certain thing is uncertain. So if I have energy and I have buying power, I would like to put my money into Tesla because I use the car and it's fun, and I look all over the places. No one like Tesla. That's why I'm optimistic bull.
You're the optimistic bull. There we go. We'll call you that. Thank you so much, Fa. I appreciate the introduction. So the main topic today is, do we actually believe it when Elon says that Tesla could actually become the largest company in the world? He has said a couple of times now, if not more, that at some point he sees a path for Tesla to become larger than Apple and Saudi Aramco combined. And I'm not sure if he's referring to the current market caps of Apple and Saudi Aramco right now, but he believes there's a path that way. So, really quick, and that just quick answers from everybody of a 1-minute roundtable, and then we'll come back and talk about it at more length. So, Nicholas, we'll start with you. What's your thinking? Is this a possibility? When might it happen?
Yeah. So, first of all, as far as current market price for Saudi and Apple, I think he's clearly talking about that, because what else would he be talking about? The future, when it might be depreciated, and in the past when it was worth a different, like, that would make no sense. So I think his point was in that current time, which would put it about a $4.5 trillion valuation, I think is what it comes out to. So yeah, I definitely think it's more than possible. I think it's almost a certainty. It's just a matter of time, right? It's a matter of time until they get there. The numbers dictate it, from just the margins on the EV side. We see going on with energy, and in my opinion, at the end of this year, when FSD beta is solved good enough to be able to go into robo taxis, it's more than a guarantee. It'll happen, almost instantaneously, I think, once that is actually realized. But yeah, I think it absolutely will happen, and it's just a matter of time until we get there.
A pragmatic bull saying that it's a certainty that it's going to happen. That's not very pragmatic, Nicholas.
Well, it's math. Like once you've done the math, it's like you realize it's just a matter of time. It's if they could just produce the amount of volume that they need right now, they could be there today. But they don't have that volume right now. They're creating the plants. It's time.
I love it, Nicholas. Thank you so much. Okay, so what's your answer, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm on the math train as well. I mean, the EV adoption curve is undeniable, and you see what Tesla is doing to grow their scale, and they're going to talk more about that on March 1st. But just on the EV front, they're doing a tremendous amount, and then you have the stationary energy storage, which I think we're also going to hear more about soon. Elon's building these businesses. He knows the businesses he's building. He understands the total available market. You just think about the foresight back in the mid 2000s when he was investing in EV and then reinvesting, basically every year, the proceeds from the company to grow and capitalize the effort. So auto, stationary energy, and of course you've got the software services and autonomy, AI, as Nicholas referred to. And then you finally, in the future, you've got the bot. And maybe not all of these are going to hit. They're not all going to hit. You don't have to hit home runs. You don't have to bat 1,000, to use a U.S., baseball term. Even if half of them hit, I mean, it's significant. So I think he knows the businesses he's building. I think it's a matter of time. And they're not all going to hit all at the same time. They're not all going to be perfect.
All right. So Nicholas said just the math alone, just the auto business. But then you're saying at least half of it, if only half of all these businesses have to hit, are you saying that you need to have more than just the auto business to become larger?
I mean, potentially. I mean, we don't know, right? What's going to happen with the size of the auto industry with autonomy? Because what you're going to do now per vehicle is you're going to massively increase the utilization rate. Have you ever thought about the utilization rate of your car today? You have your Tesla today, and how often is it being used? And if that, if that's actually realized from an FSD and from an autonomy basis, the utilization per vehicle would go up, and therefore the total available market would go down. So that's why I'm saying that I think he's launched efforts in multiple industries, whether it's auto, and you have the EV adoption curve, you have energy, and you have the battery storage adoption curve that's occurring, just a better, cleaner source of energy. And then you've got autonomy, and then you've got the bot. And again, they may not all hit. Maybe they're all realized, but maybe they're not all at their full curve, or maybe just half of them work and half of them don't. My point is that he's in enough of the biggest growing industries, and he's got real insight in terms of the total available market. So pretty excited to see what could happen.
Yeah. Fa, your turn. What's your answer?
Well, I'm gonna make it so simple.
Yeah.
I go drive Lyft sometime in my Tesla, and it's just mind blowing. Even though I'm in California and every 10 cars a Tesla, 10%, it's still a lot of people don't know about it. It's still a lot of people just get in my car and say, "Wow, what is this?" But it's like spaceship. Wow, I love your car. And if I tell them, like, yeah, I'm not really driving you guys right now, my car is driving us, it's going, it's turned on a blinker by itself, and they're like, what is this? My wife needs this, my children needs this. So just the opportunity itself, and I don't know the gas price that went up to $5, $6, $7 per gallon. That is for sure gonna happen again. So people will change their mind to just, I'm give up with the gas price. Let's find something that makes sense. With the price cut, I think they're gonna sell the car like left and right, and also the full self-driving. No brainer, right? Everybody want it. Why am I driving? Why don't my car driving me? So just the opportunity itself and the Tesla energy and Tesla insurance, that tool is giant itself. And we're not talking about just America, it's worldwide, China too, Australia too, Europe too. So 4 trillion, I'm optimistic it's definitely gonna be there quicker than we think.
I think so too. But I have a slightly different answer than you guys, I think. So I do agree with Nicholas that just the car business alone is enough to make this happen. Currently today, as we all know the stats, Tesla has 2% of the global vehicle market, and they're going to be able to go that route, and they're going to scale and grow all these factories and so forth to produce that. But when I heard him say, Elon say that I now see a path for us to become the largest company in the world, what I think he's referring to is energy. I think that he's going to go big on energy, as we kind of all knew he was going to do. He's hinting about it on March 1st Investors Day. That is where I think the real money is. And I think that if you combine, if you look at the exponential growth of the car business and the electric vehicle business for Tesla, it's exponential and it's going to grow significantly. But in order to really get to become larger than Saudi Aramco or Tesla, it's energy. And he has said before, right? And I think we all know that the moment that Tesla's market value is higher than Saudi Aramco, that's when we know that, the clean energy, the sustainable energy has won the game, and he's finally hit his primary goal. And I think that that's the ultimate kind of the best marker would be finally the largest companies in the world are no longer these gas companies, oil and gas companies, but rather the EV companies or the sustainable energy companies. And so that's what I think he's referring to. I think that there's going to be something big coming. I think we're going to be hearing more about mega packs. We're going to be hearing more about the minerals. He has said before that people who if anybody makes minerals, you're going to be doing very well. You're going to have a huge business, but nobody stepped up, or few have. And so now Teslas now have to get to that business. So that's my thinking. And then the question I don't think any of us answered was, when do we think this is going to happen? So let's go around that list again. And Nicholas, let's start with you. When do you think this might happen? Are you thinking 10 years from now? Do you think 5 years, or can it even happen sooner than that?
That's a good question. So let me work backwards. So I think it'll happen in the next 2 to 3 years under the premise that FSD beta and robotaxis happen. I'm convinced that FSD beta will be ready by the end of this year. And I think that we're going to see robotaxi start to go into production maybe end of this year or next year. So based off all that, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, it could easily happen.
You are not the pragmatic bull. We're going to have to change that. You're not the pragmatic bull. Come on. That's crazy. Okay. Jeff?
Well, I mean, I'll hand it to Nicholas. I mean, I think one thing he's recognized is the exponential progress that'll be made. It's taken a number of years just to get to this point, and a number of real architecture changes on the FSD beta side. But they believe they've got an architecture and approach today that'll scale. So I mean, the progress could start becoming, think about the FSD beta release we got in, I don't know, November, December versus what you're driving with today versus, what this 11.3 release how it may perform. So the improvements may become exponential, and therefore the results may start, accelerating. From my perspective, short answer, I mean, I would be closer to the 5 to 7 year range. I think a number of things, have to occur, and some of this stuff takes a while to ramp up. And you're talking about $4.5 trillion. So you've got to, get this, you've got to be valued. You have to have the valuation and the sales, to support it. And obviously, I think Tesla's doing it in a way that they're going to garner the gross margins. I think 5 to 7 years. Again, I am the rational bull.
Love it. And then what do you think, Paul?
FSD, Well, I guess this is pure guess. I think the auto legacy will purchase a license. One of them will do it first. I don't know who's gonna do it. Volkswagen, Mercedes, or Toyota. They're gonna have to buy a license, and then after that, it's gonna go very big. So maybe 5 years. 5. The more car it ride, the more car is collect the data, it's the smarter it get, right? So if the legacy auto purchase a license, it means it's more car and it's definitely like get better quicker. So 5 years, I think.
Wow. Okay. This group is a little bit more, okay. Other than Nicholas, I think the 5 years may be, it sounds right, but it sounds a little too far as well. Because what you guys are saying is like, if robotaxi hits, if they start producing more mega packs, when robotaxi hits, I agreed. But when that happens, it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen within a year of that, shouldn't it? I mean, I guess it depends on the rollout, how quickly it rolls out. But Elon has been saying that robotaxi is going to be the. What do you think when he says that? The greatest asset transfer in history. What does that mean?
To me, it means he's going to have all of these hardware capable machines available. They're already out in the wild, and that capability is going to be available in software for people to just download, with the press of a button, from their phone. And it'll be very quick. I mean, eventually they'll get on the subscription or they'll buy the full plan, and it'll be quick, especially out, if it's working extremely well and it's provable that it's, 10 times safer than human driving, just throwing out a number. Why wouldn't you? And you'd have the ease and capability. So I just think the speed, this whole thing of pre-building and ramping the hardware and putting it out there with all the hooks in it, and then just requiring a software upgrade, highly unique versus how the rest of the industry operates. So it'd be unlike anything that's out there today.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think, Elon's set me. I don't think there's a lot of mystery into what he means by the biggest asset wealth transfer, or however you put it. He talks about it every time, right? He doesn't just say it; he explains it. And a way of thinking about it is, you can buy stocks. Sure, that's one way to have an asset that can hopefully generate you some income. You can have real estate. You can have commercial real estate. There's many ways many assets you can purchase. But this is a situation where you're going to go from having a liability, which is what a car is, and in a moment's notice through a software update, now this liability, this thing that is depreciating in your garage, can now go out and make you $30,000 to $50,000 a year. That's what he's saying. It's this instantaneous transition from a liability to an asset in a moment's notice. Just to put this in context, think about New York City. In New York City, to have a taxi cab there, yellow taxi cab, you have to pay upwards of $1 million to have a medallion. All right, that's just to operate as a taxi driver in New York City, as a yellow cab taxi driver. Take that and apply that to a robo-taxi, right? That's just on another level. You take out the human component. You don't have to deal with that part, right? You can charge less, get more rides, get more vault. Just thinking it from that perspective just gets nutty. So I think it's just very clear what he means by that is the fact that we're literally going to take this piece of sheet metal that sits in your garage and just depreciates every single day, can now go out and earn you, pay back what it costs in a year and a half. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. I still think that it doesn't matter. You don't need to wait for robotaxi for it to happen. I don't think that that's what he's referring to as, I see now a path, because it seems to be kind of like dependent.
Those are two different questions, though.
Go ahead. What do you mean? Well,
you just asked us about wealth transfer, and now you're talking about a path to being, worth more than Saudi Aramco or Apple, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So those are two different thoughts.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, why did I conflate the two? There must be a reason why I was thinking of the two. Okay.
Nicholas, that happens all the time. Welcome to the show. Just kidding, Herbert.
No. Okay, I think the reason I thought of this is that where was I going with this? Okay, so you were talking about robotaxi. We kept spending so much time on robotaxi, so I want to bring it back to I don't think you need to have robotaxi. Yes, it's going to have the greatest asset transfer for the individuals about to make money. All that's correct, but now you have to wait for that to happen, and I don't think you need to. I don't think you both kind of like we came back to robotaxi, and I think I'm pulling it back off and saying I don't think we need to wait for that for this to be the greatest asset transfer to each of us.
Okay,
Tesla shareholders. How about that?
Let me tie it for you.
Okay.
I would speculate that based on what Elon has seen with his autonomy team, that is why he now sees a clear path.
I don't agree.
Because what he's seen, right? I mean, he sees that they see all the data we don't see. And if I don't know if you guys have beta or not, but you would imagine that as we get closer and closer, as we get, everyone talks about the last 10% or the last 2% or the hardest. Well, we are infinitely in a better place now than we were at the beginning of 2022. And every release seems to be a bigger jump than the previous release. And so I think that's what Elon has seen. I think he's seen how the progress is rapidly approaching, and much like getting to the largest market cap company, it's just a matter of time. He sees it. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, right? We're going to get there. And I think that's where he's really starting to see. It's like, okay, I see a very clear path to this now.
All right. And then, Fa, you're pretty confident about robotaxi as well. Are you actually trying FSD beta? Do you know?
I try it. I live on a hill in the zigzag way, and I try to have it drive me home every night from work. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it go too fast. I have to tell them, hey, slow down. And it surprised me. It's been surprising me. It's getting better and better. So I don't know. Right now, maybe it's like 70%. They still have to work another 30% to make it perfect. But yeah, the technology go fast. I think the way to make to 4 trillion is a battery and a solar.
Okay, thank you.
Because the energy is getting very ridiculous. I paid PG&E $1,300 last month, and I just could not wait to get my power wall in here. And I'm not the only one who complain about PG&E. People in Europe is like their whole paycheck go for the electric bill. Like Elon used to say one time, he said, we can just have solar in Barcelona, and that will power the whole Europe. No one have to be dependent on gas and oil anymore. And I believe him on this one. And I think if we sacrifice some space in Fresno or Bakersfield to make solar wall, we might have enough energy to give us so many places in California. So I think that is our next treasure.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, you can actually make money now. I think in California, there's somebody who was making $570 already, and that's even before vehicle to grid is turned on. So let's get back to the stock, right? And I want to. So obviously, as we know, Nicholas stepped out. He needed to get a drink of water, but the macro is the one that's impacting the stock the most. You can see what happened today. The stock fell down, now below 200. And wanted to get an update from you, Jeff, and then you, Nicholas. Tell me what's going on with the macro. What's happening? I mean, it looks like it's mixed signals that's happening out there.
Well, I mean, the news stories this weekend, geopolitically, were not great for markets. But I mean, the market is kind of bouncing. It did make a little bit of a better high from versus the last couple of run-ups. But really, in anything between where we are today in the S&P and 4,300 is pretty much in the range from last summer. So we're a bit range bound, waiting for good news. The markets thought basically over the last 30 days in this big run-up that the Fed was was going to pivot at some point this year and potentially cut rates. And the news, the macro news, pretty much every indicator, maybe except housing, has been that has said that the economy is scorching hot, whether it's jobs, whether it's CPI, PPI. CPI kind of came in line. PPI was a little bit hot. The jobs number from last month was super hot. So just kind of one thing after another from a macro perspective, the markets are kind of coming to the realization of like, well, hey, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't have this huge disconnect. The Fed is going to, they're going to have to do the job, which means at least a couple more rate hikes. And again, I think the big change is not necessarily a rate cut this year, and so higher for longer. And so people have to adjust to that. The other thing I think that's happening is like what's working this year is what didn't work in the last couple months or last quarter, really in Q4. And that could be tiring out at this point. We'll see. We need to see some catalyst. The earnings weren't as bad as everyone projected. Although I would say the first couple of bouts of retail earnings this morning weren't so great, but the tech earnings weren't, they weren't great, but they weren't the quote unquote earnings recession. So all in all, it's macro, it's higher for longer. And that's weighing on the markets now for a bit. And, we'll have to see where it goes. And from a Tesla perspective, I think it hung in pretty well today, although it did close on the lows. The markets closed on their lows for the day too. So tomorrow will be very interesting.
Did something new happen? Because just a few days ago, Cathie Wood said that she thinks that there's going to be a rate cut this year. Now you're saying that you actually see rate increases this year.
Well, I'm just going off of what the Fed funds future rate is showing, and it's showing, right now I think it's aligned to like 5.16 or, in the future. So we're still below 5 in terms of the current rate. So there's a couple more hikes, and that Fed funds rate so it gives you a number and it gives you a point in time. That's the kind of the dot plot curve, and the dot plot curve has us over 5 through the end of the year. So no real cutting will occur. So you're going to have to run at these rates. But I mean, the last 10 to 12 years has been, this 0% environment. That's also strange. If you look at it from the last 40 or 50 years of economic data, we've not normally been at zero, but we've been at zero this last 10 years. So it is a bit of a shock, but it's kind of, if we get back into something that's in the 2 to 3% range, I think markets can work just fine. I think markets can work even up at these levels. It's just, is there kind of a point in time where there'll be some easing of monetary tightening? That I think that's what the markets are looking for.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Nicholas. So a few months ago when you and I were talking, you were saying that you were pretty conservative about what's going to happen with the recession and what's going to happen with the economy. You were just saying, hey, let's wait it out and see what the earnings are going to be like. That's too early to call. Where are you sitting today?
Today, so with regards to Tesla or the economy, or
the economy first, and then we'll talk about Tesla stock shortly.
Yeah, so I would say the economy right now, the economy today, I don't think is trading or reacting at all on the economy. I think it's purely reacting to Biden's visit to Ukraine, to Russia getting out of the pact, to China and Putin summit happening. I mean, it's all these, everyone's doing the thing they shouldn't be doing. Like, I hate to say it, no matter which side of the aisle you are on any of this, Biden probably shouldn't have gone to Ukraine. Russia probably shouldn't have gotten out of the pact, but maybe one led to the other, right? I mean, so it's this escalation of everything, and this is putting fear into the markets, and it's nonsense is what it is. We have, so I'll get my soapbox for a second here. We've got a handful of hundreds of people in the world controlling, dictating everything for everybody based on what they deem to be right without caring about what the general populace thinks. The general populace doesn't want war. The general populace doesn't want any of this. You got a few hundred people in the entire world controlling all of this, and it's ridiculous. Sorry. But as far as the economy goes, I agree with a lot what Jeff was saying. We are going to keep going higher. Kathy Woods was also calling for rate cuts last year. So, I mean, I think I'm not saying she's wrong, and I'm a big fan of Kathy. I mean, she literally lives right down the street from me. but at the same time, you're probably going to see rates go above what CPI is, right? So there's going to be an inflection point with rates and CPI. And that's probably where it'll finish at that point. So I definitely see us getting to 5.5, maybe even the 6 if we don't come down lower, right? I mean, even Chamath said this in January of 2022, right? So he said this a long, long time ago, and he's been right ever since. So, you know, you can just listen to these people who've been right over and over, or you can listen to people who haven't been right over and over. And as far as Tesla goes, I think the best thing that could happen for Tesla right now is what we're seeing currently. We're seeing a lot of softening with some of these companies. We're seeing tech have all these layoffs, which is going to spread into other industries. It already is. It's slowly happening. I think it's going to accelerate. I think we'll find out that the January numbers, I almost guarantee you it'll be revised down. I almost guarantee you. We had something similar like this happen, I think, in October or sometime last year, where we had this crazy number, and then all of a sudden it got revised down by like 200,000. You're like, what? How does that happen? So I remember specifically because Steve Leeson on CNBC was saying, like, I never say this. I don't believe these numbers. I don't think these are accurate. And then sure enough, he was right. I was like, all right, you got to give the guy some credit there. But so I think we are seeing some softening, and I think that will be good for Tesla, because if everything keeps looking so hot, that's going to force the Fed to maybe go back to 50 basis point, right? To try to put a shock into the markets. But I also think the markets are reacting right now, doing the work for the Fed. So hopefully we don't have to do that. And as far as Tesla goes, I'm pretty bullish about March 1st. Maybe this is me being overly optimistic. I even bought some call options, some leaps, based off of my presumption for March 1st. Yeah, why not? So yeah, I'm pretty optimistic over the long run, but the economy definitely needs to simmer down a little bit, right? I think I've heard like some people say it's laughing in the face of Jerome Powell right now, and that's probably not the best thing. You know, the numbers are just not looking like an economy where the Fed's trying to tamper down inflation.
All right. Wow. You just threw a few bombs in there. That's crazy. I tell you, you are not the conservative bull at all. So you're actually putting
pragmatic
options for March. Pragmatic bull. Okay. I got to research what the word pragmatic actually means. Okay. But so let's talk about that. What do you guys think is going to happen to Tesla stock post March 1st? You actually think it's going to rise. And normally it's going to rise before the news and you sell after the news, right? That's normally what's happening. What about you, Fa? How are you thinking about March 1st? Do you think this is a historic moment? Do you think something big is going to happen? Are you thinking the stock will rise after that as well?
Well, it's how do I say it? The last time we talk about the sale. What is it? The last time Tesla talked, the stock went up, which is I'm like, what? It's supposed to went down. I put money on the side, the earning call, yeah. I put money on the side and say, okay, it's gonna went down. I'm gonna spoon some up, and it's went up, and I'm like, what? So I look back couple times. It's actually the last couple times when Tesla come out and talk about something earning or tell us about like semi, it's been up. So this time I think people get really excited, so it's might been up. It's many excited. It's so many excited things happen, right? And Elon gonna talk about Master Plan Part 3, which is worldwide again. So I think people tune in this stuff like millions of people. So there might be some rise up, I think.
Okay. It's just that last time they did Master Plan Part 1 or Master Plan Part 2, that does not move the stock. And these are long-term range plans. And then what do we hear? The investment analysts always say, we'll raise their targets when we see actual revenue falling in. We don't care about your plans. We don't trust what CEOs and executives say of any company. Having said all that, I actually do think that the stock is going to rise after March 1st, because I think it's going to be a very big change for Tesla and the narrative of who Tesla is. I've been saying that I think this is going to be the time that Tesla is no longer going to be seen as a car company. This is going to be an energy company, and they're going to lay out the path of why they are already one and how they're going to become one that's going to dwarf the car company. But Jeff, let's hear from you. What's your thinking?
Well, I give my disclaimer of, predicting 1 or 2 day stock moves is kind of, I think, a fool's errand. But I think in generally we're talking about like, will the stock be higher after this event? And I like to think so. I think what Tesla has to do, though, for the analyst community is give them something that they can put into their spreadsheets, or allow them to make a new spreadsheet, a new table of income, a new table with high gross margins, a new revenue stream that they haven't been properly modeling. So I think it's going to hopefully change the face of how Tesla is looked at, to your point, Herbert. But I think they've got to give the analyst community, it's got to be a little bit of like this is how we're getting to this massive scale, which, they're not going to be able to model everything, but here, this is how we're doing over a many-year time frame. But tactically, like, this is what we're doing with energy, with auto, and this is the trajectory we were on before, and this is what it is with massive scale, and this is what it means to kind of sustainable energy for Earth. I think it was the term that was used, like solving that problem for Earth. This is what that actually means, but actually put it in a form of kind of like short term or near term, and then long term. So I'm looking forward to it. And again, I think this is a point in time where it's not just going to be, a model here. By the way, I do think that they're going to reveal a new hardware platform, and they may reveal a car that will go onto that platform. So I think we're going to get some exciting news on March 1st. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think that when they announce a Gen 3 platform, a compact car, and a design maybe for the robotaxi, if that happens, and I think we're all expecting it to happen, and if it doesn't happen, it's going to be bad. But if it happens, right, at that point, there should be a change in the narrative of who Tesla is as a car company. Now they're going to say, okay, Tesla is going to have a segment competing in all segments. The biggest concern about Tesla has always been it's a premium brand only selling for the very small percentage of people who buy these premium cars. Well, now the price of the Model 3 is $27,000 in California after this California rebate for the low income people. And it's not even low income, by the way. You can get a rebate of $2,500 if you're like less than $180,000 of joint filer, something like that. It's crazy. It's like, this is not low income. But then if they come up with a compact car, and then they say this is going to be on sale, let's say a year and a half from now. And it's honestly, there's even a possibility that it's going to come out and sale sooner than we think, because of, I was talking to John Gibbs recently, and he was saying that there's an Osborne effect. Like, you can't say there's a compact car coming too early, then people will stop buying the Model 3 or something like that and just wait for it to happen. So it might come, you might only announce it when you're really ready to start producing it within a year or something. That I don't know if that's going to be the case. Anyway, yeah. So this could be a big deal, right? I mean,
yeah. Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
So let me go back to when I said I have options. So I'll caveat and I'll explain what I have there. I bought $160 strike price options when we were at 140 back before earnings, and these were leaps, right? I talked about this with Yash on his channel, and I bought those because I thought, obviously, like all of us, that this was just way too downplayed. I thought it was too undervalued, but I didn't want to risk a lot of the capital I had on the sidelines in case we do go down further, right? So I wanted to minimize my downside using options. So those are the options I have. So I still have a lot of time till expiration. I'm way up on those. So caveat that. Now, as far as what happens March 1st, The reason I'm so bullish on it is a lot of what you guys are saying, right? I don't know if they're actually going to unveil a car, right? Or a product per se. I do think they're going to talk about the new platform and what they're working towards. Now, to your point, as far as what John was saying, I feel like that's not really that big of a worry, the Osborne effect, because it's so easy to prevent that from happening. Here's the vehicle that we're working on. We plan on it being ready soon. Maybe you say in the next year to two, and you don't give a price. Who's going to wait for a car that you don't know when it's going to come out and you don't know what the price is going to be, right? Like that takes care of that issue, in my opinion, at least. Now, what I think will likely happen is that during this time, they might announce 2 or 3 different places where they're going to open new gigafactories, and those would be the gigafactories that will be producing the new platform. And on top of that, that they're going to start working on the lines and efficiency of the lines, much like they did at Cato for the battery lines for the 4680, that they're going to start working on that within Austin and Shanghai, right? So I kind of see that being a potentiality. No shot or no guarantee if it'll happen or not, but it just seems like a really big moment that could happen. And we just keep hearing things about Canada, about Mexico, Indonesia, right? We heard for the longest time that China was going to have a second gigafactory, right? Whatever happened with that. So all these things that keep going on, I just feel like this might be the culmination of all those rumors that were nuggets of truth finally coming together and painting the picture of what's actually been happening in the background. So if that's the case, well then, yeah, I'm happy I held my leaps.
Okay, so a couple of counters to what you just said, if I can. So some people say that, I actually do agree with you. I think that there should be gigafactory announcements, megapack factories announcements, and more lithium refineries. But some people say, well, they won't make those announcements because they're contingent upon a signed agreement. And as soon as that signed agreement happens, they're going to make the announcement. Okay, they're not going to wait for a presentation to do that per se. And then the other point you made about, when they say Gen 3 platform, that they may not show a car. I would say that, number one, they very, very clearly said the agenda for March 1st Investor Day is going to be the Gen 3 platform. And so what does that mean? What is a Gen 3 platform, right? That's going to be a platform they're going to show you. And if you saw a year ago, they were talking about how they're going to do the robotaxis in development and other cars are in development. You've been hearing Franz talking about his greatest design is the one he's working on right now. They're talking about a dedicated robotaxi. They've been bringing that up at every single presentation and every big event that they've had for the last year. So this is the time to do this at Investors Day when they're going to be talking about these things. It's not going to be during AI Day that's coming up or the shareholder meeting. If they're going to do it, they're going to do the reveal now. Although Jeff and I were talking before that we think that there's going to be a separate Cybertruck presentation, and it could be that they might delay the presentation of new vehicles until during that time. But we think that the Cybertruck is big enough that it deserves its own presentation, and you don't need to muddle it up with anything other than, oh, by the way, here's a Roadster that we're still working on or something like that.
Yeah. So can I push back on that real quick? Just to explain my
just push back on you. Go ahead.
Well, because right, this is how conversations normally happen, right? So I just want to explain my rationale here. So those are very valid points you're making there, but let's put a little nuance on this. Did Tesla bring up the robotaxi and the next platforms and all that every time? No. They were asked questions about it, and they pivoted around the question, and they gave some kind of answer. So they haven't openly brought it up.
That's not true. There was actually a chart that they showed many times. There's several charts that they've done. One in the earnings call, one in an actual presentation, and it says robotaxi in development.
True. But they haven't talked about it. They've shown it on literature, but they haven't talked about it. Even with Hans, whenever it was brought up to Hans didn't openly talk about it, right? Correct. They asked him, and so he answered. And the other thing is, if Hans is saying that he is still, or the one that he's actively working on for design, well, then it's probably not ready to go on a show floor, I would imagine. right? Or maybe, I don't know how long Hans works on these products until their completion, but I would imagine his design part would be done way in advance before they actually have a product to release. So I don't know. I'm just a little hesitant. I want to be cautiously optimistic when it comes to that part of it. I know Meet Kevin had a interview with Brett from ARK Invest, and Brett seems pretty adamant that they're going to show it. So I hope he's right, but I'm being a little paranoid about it, or a little cautious about it.
What do you guys think?
I just cannot wait for the Cybertruck to come.
Me too.
Yeah. That one we know. That one we know. Because we are seeing, what is it, 3, 4, 5, we're seeing it in the streets now, right? So Jeff, you were talking a lot that you wanted to see this more in the streets, and specifically you want to see Elon driving it. We did see a video of Elon in the passenger seat. So it's getting close, isn't it?
I think that was an old video of him, but I do think there's new videos of the car. What I was saying out there in the streets, what I was saying is you want to see, dozens of them out there. You want to see them in testing, cold weather testing and off-road testing, water and so forth. You want to see kind of those spy shots occurring, because then you'll know that it's really in its final legs of testing, and they're just dialing and tuning things in. I do believe them when they say the design is complete, but that could be the databases, the industrial design, even the engineering release to production. But they still could be making tweaks on that engineering release to production. So the verbiage I would be looking for is it final? Like, do they actually have the mass production, approved, pilot approved vehicle?
Yeah, do you think they have the Giga Press? Do you have they have the press machine for the Cybertruck?
Yeah, and all that.
So?
That's right, Fa. Yeah, I mean, all that's really just coming in, being assembled. And I think if I'm Tesla and if I'm in their position, what I want to do is, since that's such a centerpiece of how this car is made, I want to be running that press. First, I want to run it in small volumes at a kind of a low rate. And then I want to be able to run it at the rated speed that it needs to be in production. We don't have to get too far down a rat hole in Cybertruck, but they have to prove out, this is so new to them and the industry. They want to see how the yields are. I think the yields on that part are going to dictate much of the ramp story, because I think a lot of the things with the motors and inverters are going to be either existing or very close to things that are in production. But it's really going to be that casting and the performance and yield of it. The nice thing is if it doesn't come out great, they can melt it down and reuse it. So I think they've built an incredible platform. I just think they want to dial in the yields and understand that. But back to Investor Day, I don't think we're going to hear too much. I think we're going to hear about where they're going to spend. They talked about it's a capital allocation discussion. Mm-hmm. It's also, and it's what you want to know as an investor. It's also a conversation on the Gen 3 platform, their new manufacturing line. I get geeked up about the new manufacturing line because I believe they're going to show like old floor space, like the Gen 1 car, the floor space, to build an S and an X, the floor space to build the latest 3 and Y. And then I think they'll show you the Gen 3, the floor space, the output per square meter, the velocity per square meter in the factory. And if you've run factories before, you'll know that all those metrics convert to cost, and it also converts to what is a gigafactory. Before we thought it was 500,000 units of output, and I believe they're going to show us a path to 1 million on this new Gen 3 platform or higher in the equivalent footprint size. So I'm very excited to see. So I think those are the three things they're going to talk about: capital allocation, Gen 3 platform, and kind of like what the new factory looks like. I also think, obviously, I hope they go deeper into the energy story and how they're actually going to solve for that. So I'm excited. I do think, again, the way for the stock to move is that they actually tie what they show to business. Like this is where we see the business. Like, we're going to book this year. This thing goes into production in September. If they actually start tying it to real milestones of when they're going to be producing the product or getting revenue on it, I think it will reflect is in the stock price.
What do you guys think whenever it says our most advanced assembly line, or however they worded it? What do you think they mean by that? Because I didn't walk away thinking that they're talking about the new platform. I was thinking maybe they would have the Cybertruck assembly line finished, or maybe they would just be talking about the Model Y with the 4680 batteries. Maybe that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what they're going to show. I kind of view the Model Y, the structural pack Model Y, as kind of like a 2.5 gen. I also view the Cybertruck maybe 2.5 gen. I think the third generation there's going to be a significant reduction in complexity, number of components, number of robots, feet or meters of wiring in the car, total number of process steps. I don't know if they're going to get into that level of detail. They may. They're Tesla. They can talk about those things because those are things, quite frankly, once that car is available, that you can buy that, tear it down, and also acquire a lot of those metrics. So I view a next generation line as a next generation in terms of reducing complexity, reducing the size, and increasing the output per square meter. That's what a next generation line to me is. Less, again, kind of less is more. So we'll see.
What did you think, Nicholas? Because at first when I read that, I thought it was a throwaway line. Like, they always just show their production line no matter what, right? You go to Giga Berlin, they're going to show you the fly through the Giga Berlin factory. They're going to do things like that. But it does sound like this is not just a throwaway line, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to be there?
I honestly, I think it's probably just going to be showing us what they currently have with the Model Y and the structural pack. I think it's just one of those things where, hey, if you're going to be here, come take this tour, just like it was at the shareholder meeting, where it was nice, I guess, but it was honestly see very little at the shareholder meeting. Like, we didn't get to see that much at all on the tour, right? And I guess there are reasons behind that, right? We didn't even get to see the 4680 structure pack at all, right? We just saw the OG 4680 with the 2000 series batteries. So I don't know, but like, even when I'm reading the release on Tesla IR about the investor day, it also struck me a little odd how they kind of buried, maybe like towards the very end, about the new platform, right? Talking about that, like, it's just odd. Like, why do that if it's going to be a focus, which makes me think it's not going to be a focus. So
I'm going to have to disagree with you again.
What's new? What's new?
Because the whole reason why they didn't do that then is because they're reserving it for now. Okay.
Wait, what?
Now,
I didn't follow that.
The reason why they didn't talk about that at that time is because that's the focus now.
No, I'm saying on the actual Tesla Investor Day release that you see on Tesla IR, like the first that talks about everything that we're going to see. In that release, they only talk about the new generation at the very bottom. It's almost like a footnote in it.
Oh, I see. So if your prioritization of the statements of which one we're going to do as an agenda.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, if it's a keynote, like, you're going to have the main conversation up first.
Okay. Well, the very first thing that was talked about was this advanced production line. It said, we're going to show you the most advanced production line, and we're going to do these three things. Right? So here's what I think might actually happen. Let's do this. So as you remember in the earnings call, right? The executives at Tesla made a very big point saying that, we should all start looking at operating margin rather than gross auto margin. And then Martin Viecha, the investor relations person, said this is his favorite chart of the entire deck that they shared, right? So this is ASPs, the average sales price of the vehicle, which is going flat. This is going to actually start falling, right? 2023, the ASP should actually fall. I don't know. It's all total, but what the point was is the red line here is the operating margin just skyrocketing, and this is before Giga Berlin is optimized, Giga Texas is optimized, 4680s are optimized. And so I think this is going to actually skyrocket up. And so if the whole point about the most advanced production line is something to do with, we really have, like the Project Highland and Highland Park in Ford's motor company's Highland Park in 1913, they were able to produce 1,000 cars per day. And that was a huge deal because of how they turned it into a factory, a real factory, right? Production line. And so if they can show that, hey, we really are going to we're going to expect operating margin to skyrocket because of some sort of, like Jeff was saying, let me show you the factory itself. And let me show, what if there are robots in the factory, right? That would be a little bit too much of a wish list.
Well, it's on my wish list now.
Yeah, not immediately. But again, I think they've got to show tangible things, and they've got to give you something to kind of think about, kind of big picture for the future. So I think that's what Investor Day is going to be. I don't think, we should get our hopes to the roof or like to the moon, but I think they've got to show some, for the stock to move. They've really got to show something like tactical, like this is shipping within a reasonable time frame, and then this is what we're doing for the future. That's really big picture. That's that we're not going to put a time on it, but you can see here's the size of the total available market. It's gigantic. I think the energy story is that, and I hope we hear a lot more about that.
Now that I think about it, I'm actually changing my thinking here. I got to be cautious. So I've been saying that this is going to be all about energy. This is about the master plan part 3. But now if you look at this, thank you, Matt, our investors will be able to see our most advanced production line. And then it goes, as well as discuss long-term expansion plans, Gen 3 platform, capital allocation. It could be that these 3 things, long-term expansion plans, master plan part 3, could just be kind of like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to be doing these things too. And that's the future stuff. But right now, we got something big to show you. It's the most advanced production line. And then, people were saying, why is the Investor Day invite all the Model Y castings and stacked up and all that? It could be really about scale and production of cars is their primary focus.
Do you think that's the Model Y?
From hearing Sandy Monroe and Corey Steuben, they said that was the Model Y casting, except they said that they saw the side casting, but they said that there were some slight differences about it that didn't look exactly the way the Model Y looks.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Yeah. Yeah, that got me to thinking that maybe that this is something else.
What we saw there was something else? I mean, it looks pretty straightforward, looks pretty similar, so.
No, it does. But what I'm saying is that could easily be the next generation vehicle, and that's what the side profile looks like.
I
disagree
again.
Why? Well,
it's just a prediction. Yeah. It's just
how can you so adamantly disagree with that? It's a prediction. Like, even they're saying it's not quite the Model Y, so you can't just disagree.
Well, Elon said one of the goals of Tesla is become #1 manufacturing in the world, right? So he might have something to showcase. I don't know, March 1st or anytime soon. I'm all excited about it. Everything is brand new, right?
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
The reason I'm disagreeing, Nicholas, is just that if it's supposed to be the Gen 3 platform, then it should be I think we're all thinking it's going to be the compact car or robotaxi, and it's going to be a smaller form factor. And 2, if I think of robotaxi, I don't think of car doors like the way we're seeing it now. I see van kind of, easy in and easy out entry, not these car door stuff. All
right. So want to get nutty?
Let's get nutty.
So I talked about how I thought, that they would announce these multiple different locations, right? I could see them announcing these locations strategically for a compact vehicle that will be designed for those given geos. But the next generation platform will also be what the robotaxi sits on. And so what we see there, sure, maybe that won't be the body for the robotaxi, but that will be the body for the compact vehicles. That might be like a hatchback of sorts. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, that, in my dreams of dreams, that's what would happen. So again, if you look at, you just had it up there, but we want to show you our latest and greatest, production line. And then we want to talk about the next generation platform. And then how are we going to do this? How are we going to get to scale? Well, let's talk about capital allocation. We're going to spend money here, here, and here for these new factories. And by the way, we're also, well, how are we going to supply the batteries for this? But we're going to buy this refinery and this refinery. We're going to do our own stuff here. And yeah, like I could see all that getting flushed out. That'd be amazing. And then you got to execute.
That next generation car, if you think about the COGS, the bill of material and the non-bill of material, that car has got to be something in the $17,000 range, most likely, maybe 17 to 19 to sell in the mid 20s for Tesla to command those gross margins and operating margins. So we're not already there, is my point. A lot of people say like we're already there, the Model 3 with all the incentives. People, when they think about incentives, and right now a lot of the incentives is you purchase the car, you either pay cash, which very few people do, or you sign the lease and you have the monthly payment at the larger number, and then you get some sort of rebate, whether it's on the tax side or a check later on. But mentally, people want, if you think about mentally how the retail mind works, is they want to go in and they want to get the lowest price possible at the point of sale. And that is a different platform that I believe that's under development. I do believe they're leveraging their China Design Center. I think it will launch out of there originally and then be retrofit for other regions. Or as Nicholas said, they may do their own design tweaks in various regions in these new gigafactories. But let's talk. I mean, that lower price vehicle, it's got to be probably around a $17,000 vehicle all in. And that, it's, to me,
God.
when that goes on the market, and that's, call it's retailing in the mid 20s, and then you put the incentives on top of that, it's really, that vehicle can be the total volume of every vehicle that's in the Tesla portfolio today. And there's a sequence for Tesla to be able to develop that and release it. Like, they may have the design right now, but they may not have the battery supply to support that. So I think that's how all these variables have to come together, whether it's the 4680s and their own energy production and their own partners ramping up as well on energy. So I think there's a lot of factors that they've got to work through in terms of how they time the announcement. But I think it's going to be so if you think about the investor community, when that vehicle gets announced, because everybody knows the price elasticity, and when they get the COGS down to that level and they can sell at that retail price point, that is going to just, to me, that's what sets the stock on a new trajectory.
Yeah, this is the price elasticity you're talking about. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you've got these charts handy. It's great, Herbert.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually collecting all the major charts, and I think I'll share it for members of the YouTube channel here. I'll collect all the major charts. But anyway,
look at the move from 40K to just like in the mid 20s, and what that.
So this
does
has already happened with the price cuts.
Yeah.
This is what happened with the price cuts. It went from 40K to the mid 20s, and then you can see the jump in the addressable market. It just skyrockets, and every little $5,000 move, it's a huge steep in terms of more people being able to buy this. So I wanted to ask you this, Fa. You live in California, but you were talking about Thailand. And so what you were saying that there's a lot of demand for Teslas in Thailand. Tell me what you're seeing there, and what price point do you think it needs to be for this to really take off in countries like Thailand and globally?
Okay, let me say I know so little. But I think right now in Thailand, what my friends are talking is Tesla beating Camry. Like, no one looking Toyota Camry no more. Like, the price is about the same. And of course, Tesla, you don't have to do the oil change and stuff. So with the with a new car that coming, if what Jeff say is mid 20,000, I think it's gonna blow out Honda also. So that big. That's what I think. Not just Thailand. I think China and here too. If Tesla can get a car under 30,000 out, I don't think anyone else have a future. That's my little pea brain talking. Yeah.
Well, pea brain is not so little, but this is another chart I want to share with you guys. It's never been cheaper to buy a Tesla, and it's now almost $5,000 cheaper than the average U.S. car. $5,000 cheaper than the average U.S. car. So this is the Model 3 price, and it's where are we now? What are we looking at? I guess a line item there. The line there is the average U.S. car price, and you can see that the Model 3 is now falling below that. So
yeah, and this
is
point
the
of
Model
sale.
3.
Yeah, and that's point of sale, maybe including rebates. But what about the gas savings, the
Right.
service savings over the life of the car? Which it's a hard thing, but I think people are starting to understand it. And this is why I go back to not coming full circle, but this is why I think there's some stories that Tesla needs to get out there, whether it's their move in pricing that's really a result of how they design their vehicles, how they manufacture them, but also the inherent safety in their vehicles. Just making an obvious choice. If a Model 3 is $5,000 less than a Camry at the point of sale,
Yeah.
and then over time that just gets better, and it's a safer car. I mean, it's becoming
my friend who actually work in a restaurant and a hairdresser and just like nanny, 3 of them just buy Model Y. We're talking about, like 3 of them just get brand new Model Y on a price cut last happened. We're not talking about tech worker that make 100,000. We're talking about normal people who drive their Civic for 7 years. They're like, you know what? I'm gonna ditch my Civic just right now, and everybody get Model Y. So this transaction is starting now, and I think by the end of the year in 2024, it's gonna be like boom, banana. My
this
pea brain
is
talking.
No, I mean your pea brain talking.
I love
we're talking
exploding
about
bananas.
the Model 3. This is the reduction Model 3. This is before Project Highland. This was before 4680 being being advanced,
Optimized.
before optimized, the two gigafactories, and this is even before the compact car. So it's amazing. Okay, it's a good spot to break, and thank you everybody. Appreciate you, Fa, for joining, and you, Nicholas, as always. Love your conversations with you. Thank you guys, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Fa. Appreciate you.